and welcome back to Let's Spaghetti Taco Bout It!
Woo! We're here. Happy to be here.
We're back. It's the difficult second episode, if you will.
Yeah, we're getting over the hurdle of, coming off our successful premiere episode of the world's third most popular, just the best iCarly podcast on the internet. But, we're joined by two of the number one iCarly superfans. And that's just a fact. So
yeah.
You're in for a treat because we've got an absolutely stacked show this week. I think you'll find, folks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're the third most popular show, but we're the best show. Mm. So take that for what it is. How are you feeling today?
You know what? I'm going to be honest, I'm feeling a bit riled up. I'm kind of riled up.
Okay.
And we'll get into it.
Okay.
Because, there is a lot to talk about. There's a lot of different topics to be riled up about, in fact.
Yeah, sadly I have to agree with you on that.
But, before we dive into the meat and potatoes of this second episode of our podcast, we have a couple of little nuggets that we want to get to first as a bit of an appetizer, if you will.
Oh, okay, I like that. Yeah, well, yeah, I've got something, actually, if I can offer it up. So I just actually had one of my famous brainstorm workouts. It's the perfect melding of vision and exercise, and I find it yields the best ideas. And I thought, okay, we've probably got a successful musical intro, but what if we decided to compose one ourselves? How would that sound? What would it feel like? If you're just using the iconic Leave It All to Me by Mr. Jared Drake Bell and Miranda Cosgrove, that's a great reference point. So with that in mind, I've come up with this, and I just want to gauge your immediate reactions to that, okay?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Bit rusty with the old pipes, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. Hi, Carly. Welcome to the party. Carly, Spencer, Freddy, they're all at the party, talking to iCarly. iCarly. What do you think?
Oh my god. Oh my god. I mean, the first thing that's going through our mind is like, why didn't they hire you to do the reboot theme song?
Exactly. I think, obviously, establishes the characters.
Yeah.
Establishes the tone.
Yeah.
Bit of pathos in there, I think, if I can toot my own horn. I think it's a little bit more of the dramatic variety.
Well, as we all know, you're a Trevor-nominated actor, and that comes with a lot of, clout in this little podcast industry that we're in, and you definitely brought that to your performance there. And how long did you say that you took to write that song?
Again, that's the result of about a 45-minute workout. I'm on, I believe it's an elliptical machine, which, if I'm being completely frank with you, isn't the most physically taxing of machines, but it's the only one that I have available to me in my current home gym setup.
Sure.
And then there's a few dumbbells,
yep,
and kind of do that thing where you're kind of punching at an invisible person, but of fisticuffs. And so, yeah, I couldn't say exactly how long it took to formulate, but it was just festering in there, and it came out, and I was very happy with that. And I'm usually quite a harsh critic.
Well, I think that's beautiful because, I mean, if you think about it, Leave It All to Me, I'm sure it was composed by, a boardroom full of bigwigs. Maybe Miranda Cosgrove and Drake Bell were involved somehow, but, a full team of people just to produce that 3-minute piece of music. And you've just come out guns bloody blazing in this workout setting, and you've come out with that. I mean, jeez, it's impressive. It's impressive.
It is what it is, and it was great. And it's just raw vision. So if anyone does actually kind of want to remix that, we'd love to hear it.
I mean, Noxic, I think it is, Noah Monk, Gibby, many monikers. Yeah. If you want to get in on this on the ground floor, bloody go for it, mate. We're giving you the keys to the kingdom right now. We're handing the rights over to you specifically, just Noxic. But if anyone else wants to give it a go, maybe we'll discuss some terms of how you can proceed once you've made the song, obviously the remix. But Noxic, you're free to do whatever you want. That's an open letter, open call.
I mean, I'll refer to the third line. They're all at the party.
Yeah.
So I think the title would have to just be I Party with Noxic, right?
Yeah.
That's the theme.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyway, let's enough self-aggrandizing for one day. What's your contribution to this segment? Oh, is this the segment we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, it is, because it's a bit of a controversial one. We talk about so far at least, a lot of controversy related to Nickelodeon stars, I guess. And this one's... Well, we've already mentioned his name. Drake Bell, a Nickelodeon alum. Also the voice of Ultimate Spider-Man on Disney XD. But, you know, he's got in a bit of trouble because some recent court proceedings just happened. And I'll read from the Wikipedia page because I don't have an official source on this. But basically it says on June 4th of this year, Bell was arrested in Cleveland, Ohio on charges relating to attempted endangering of children and disseminating matter harmful to juveniles. A public information officer with the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office said the 15-year-old victim, who had established a relationship with Bell several years prior, attended his concert in December 2017. While there, Bell violated his duty of care, which is apparently a legal obligation which is imposed of an individual requiring adherence to a standard of reasonable care while performing any acts that could foreseeably harm others. Okay, I didn't know that. Because of that, he created a risk of harm to the victim. Apparently, Bell sent inappropriate social media messages for months to this 15-year-old. And so initially Bell pleaded not guilty, but a video just came up on my Twitter feed today, and it is he has pleaded guilty to both charges. And yeah, it's not looking good for this guy.
I don't have anything. Like, I just feel kind of fucked up by this. Like, I've got nothing pithy, nothing funny to say, because what's to joke about?
No.
And when you sent me that video where someone's remixed it with the old Drake and Josh split screen. Okay, on the one hand, it's genius, but at the same time, like, I can't even laugh at this because it's just horrible. And there are all these jokes online for years about, you know, how, like, kind of pathetic he might be because people see him, like, loitering around Disneyland or whatever, and I'm sure he's not the only person to do that, but to actually see that it's true, like, all these kind of rumors and jokes, like, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely, it hurt. I felt betrayed because it's just fucked up. It's just really fucked up. And for this all to be so recent as well, this whole debacle was unveiled at the start of this month, and now it's kind of all, like, wrapped up, and it's like there was kind of no question about it. Yeah, it's just sad to see, really. It's sad to see, especially someone who's, you know, as involved, even though he wasn't. He might have appeared on an episode of iCarly, but he's obviously very integral to the original theme song. But yeah, I guess he's never going to be involved with any of the upcoming stuff for the reboot. Yeah, just sucks.
Well, he was responsible for the crescendo of the song, you know, the whoa.
That's true.
At the end,
yeah.
They kind of layered that up, and I mean, if it wasn't for that bit, you wouldn't know it was him. I noticed a little pre-review here that in the new theme song, it's just a kind of re-edit of the original song. They took that bit out. Did you notice that?
I didn't.
It just kind of like abruptly cuts, and I think that was the soul of the song. But I get it. You know, you can't hear the moans of I don't even know what to call him.
Just a pest. Just an absolute pest.
A guy with a fucking quiff. The quiff is just so tall.
It's too much, honestly. I mean, we'll talk about hair this episode, but I mean, God.
I mean, I can't really talk because, like, my hair was like that when I was, for most of my teenage years, because I've got a lot of forehead to contend with. So I think the aim, I think for anyone with a modestly sized forehead, the quiff should be, like, a little bit taller. And I was kind of going by that rule, but when you already have a gargantuan forehead and then suddenly the quiff is towering up, I mean, you're looking like a Conan motherfucker, you know?
So it's a recipe for disaster. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is the segment that will open every show. It's called Into the Schneiderverse, where we kind of talk about all the happenings of the world that Dan himself has created. We won't get into personalities too much, although having said that, we did just open with a more personal note, but it has to be said. We have to say it. So there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, Dan himself hasn't done anything too untoward, so I mean, it shouldn't get too bad.
I mean, we talked about his indiscretions against the former First Lady Michelle Obama, but again, I'm not convinced that isn't Photoshop, and again, they could be very close. Who knows?
We don't know their relationship. I mean, Barack might be okay with it. We don't know what the situation is there, and you know, they could just be friends. They could just be really good friends. Maybe they hit it off on set.
Yeah.
We never know. Yeah,
Schneider could have even advised within the Obama administration under various responsibilities. He could have been in the what's the room that they have, the where everything's happening.
Well, they actually renamed it to the Schneider Room after
the Schneider Room. Yeah. Waiting for the drone strike against Bin Laden or the Navy SEALs or however they dealt with that situation. Schneider's there. He's just providing a bit of levity because, you know, he's upfront about the fact that politically, he's not really got much to bring to the table, but if the boys in there need a good laugh, he's there, right?
Yeah. They just whack on an episode of one of the shows. And yeah, they're all laughing. They're all having a good time.
Yeah, there's like a it's like a button in the Oval Office that was left after Obama, which would just cue random dancing, and apparently like Trump, he couldn't get that out, so every other week Trump would just randomly, he would have to dance, you know.
Yeah, that crazy guy. And that's, I mean, he didn't like it, and that's kind of, I'd argue, how the country kind of got to the way it has.
Well, you'd think it would be a good opportunity for him to cool off, let off some steam, because if anyone needs to let off steam, it's that guy. But clearly I mean, you've seen him dance. Do you remember that thing on SNL where he's kind of dancing to Hotline Bling? I mean, I wouldn't want to subject anyone to that on a regular basis. But shall I talk about the thing I saw?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Right. So in the spirit of the Schneiderverse and also research that I have to do into this podcast, I'm getting a lot more of Schneider's Bakery come up onto my YouTube channel. I mean, at this point, it's basically just a Schneider's Bakery app. And one of the clips that was brought to my attention by the algorithm was a scene from Sam and Cat. Now, I've never seen Sam and Cat. I never even seen Victorious, so I'm kind of in the dark as to that whole corner of that universe. But this was quite an interesting clip. It was full to the brim with lore, and we love lore, don't we?
We love lore around these parts.
And this universe is so entrenched, rich with lore and connections. And basically, this clip, I think it was the episode where Neville, he returns, and you've got Sam and Cat. They're in this. It's basically a Silence of the Lambs rip-off situation. And I think the guy, the warden that shows them round, was actually in Silence of the Lambs. Basically, they've come to meet Neville because they need his help. They've turned to their darkest enemy in their darkest hour because he's the only one that can get them out of it, whatever the situation is. And so, yeah, they go into this basement and they walk past all these different cells before they get to Neville. And so they're met with a multitude of wacky characters. Now, I don't want to get too, it's a product of its time, but I have to say, the first person, the gag is literally that they walk past the cell of a black dwarf.
God.
Now, and that's it. That's the joke. Okay? Is actually... Wait, before we go any further, is dwarf the correct term at the moment?
I think it is, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is.
I hope so.
If it isn't, then please let us know. Then
please let us know,
because we don't want it to speak out of turn.
No, but the joke was literally they walk past a black dwarf and then cue laugh track. Hilarious.
I'm looking at this is not tasteful at all. This is
no.
Wow.
The second cell was I think like some Simon and Garfunkel impersonators. So I don't know if anyone watching would really get that. I got it because I'm a pretentious loser who collects vinyl. But yeah, so there was that. Creepy, I suppose. Then they hit the mother lode, okay? They happen upon the next cell, which contains none other than Drake and Josh's Crazy Steve, as played by Jerry Traynor.
Jerry!
And I wasn't sure if they were using a body double or something, but this was absolutely him, roughly the same height and build. He's wearing his classic movie theatre ensemble, and he's in there juggling like a madman. He's wearing a gimp mask.
Well, this is the thing. He's actually wearing like a Bane mask. Like it's a Halloween Bane. Like you can see the tubing. It's like not even like hidden. Yeah. From the Dark Knight Rises.
Well... they're working with what they've got on the show. I mean, they clearly... The set looks great, in my opinion, so they were clearly stretching the budget, but it fooled me. So I thought it was a gimp mask. I thought, they were pushing the envelope once again in terms of content. And I don't know if, Crazy Steve had ever really happened upon the iCarly gang. And it kind of made me think, if Miranda Cosgrove is playing Carly, but out there is also Megan, will we ever get to see that crossover?
Well... I'm just thinking now because at the time of recording we're knee deep in the recent Marvel Disney Plus show Loki, and in that show they introduced the concept of variants, and I'm thinking that maybe these alternate castings are actually just variants of the same character that have diverged in the timeline but have somehow forced their way back into the mainline iCarly, Drake and Josh, Sam and Cat Victorious universe. So
I love that, yeah. If I can further that theory, I would suggest that perhaps it's not Carly that's the variant initially, it's Crazy Steve. So I think perhaps that Crazy Steve did something, created a mirror timeline, he assumed the identity of Spencer Shea, because of course there's quite a big age gap between the two.
Yeah.
He stole Megan from her family as a young child. Not like in a creepy way, but I suppose, okay, this is inherently a creepy act, but he just wanted a sister. He wanted a family. He wanted to live in Seattle, you know? So he stole her, created this whole life for themselves, and that's what iCarly is. Because there's always this really foggy, murky backstory about their parents. I know we do see their father, but I mean, there's not even a whisper about the mother. Okay, until the revival, there was a reference, but we'll get to that. So, you know, you look at Carly and you just don't see a full human being. Nothing quite adds up. Again, there's another moment in the revival that could lend itself further to this theory, but again, we'll get to that.
Yeah, going off what you're saying, it kind of feels like, you know, when iCarly started, it feels like as soon as it started, that's where the character of Carly began. There was no before. It was just that. Like you say, it could easily have just been this this story that Spencer or Crazy Steve has invented for Carly to live this lie, essentially. Maybe, you know, we'll get to it again. We're referencing the revival quite a lot prematurely, but I'm not sure if you got to the 4th episode. But basically, Spencer hires a sex worker to go on dates with Freddy. If he's willing to hire someone to pretend to be someone for one of his friends, he could very easily just hire an actor to play their so-called dad and conveniently have him, you know, go off on whatever air base or submarine that he's on, just to explain away why he's never around. So
there's never been a character that embodies the idea of the agent of chaos quite like Crazy Steve. And I think Spencer, God love him, is, you know, a mere fraction of that. But it wouldn't surprise me if there is this connection. I mean, think about it. Sam and Cat chronologically takes place after iCarly. Carly went off to Italy. We can't account for Spencer's whereabouts in that time. So he could have gone back to the old persona, was locked up, somehow breaks out. I mean, we know that prison system in this universe isn't the most rigid. People escape all the time. I mean, Neville's back. So and sorry, that was actually the culmination of the clip. They end up seeing Neville and he's kind of like Hannibal Lecter, but I tuned out because Crazy Steve, you can't just drop a bomb like that and not focus on it. So yeah, that's what I found this week. Very interesting.
Definitely, that's honestly very good findings, and I do kind of hope now that we've uncovered this, maybe there is some explanation of how this crossover came to be, and I just want some explanations. I just want some goddamn explanations of this universe and how it works.
Because Drake Bell, I seem to remember, like, I don't even know if it was like the credits of an episode in season 1, like he almost appeared in a scene as himself, but he wasn't like Drake Parker, that was their last name. I was trying to figure that out. But yeah, obviously that thread's not going to go any further, but it'd be fun to see like Josh Peck maybe or something like that.
Well, Josh Peck's an influence. He's part of, you know, we mentioned last episode David Douchebrick and that sort of that crowd. He's sort of part of that collective. I think there is a possibility that Josh Peck could show up just as his real life persona as an influencer. I don't think that's off the table for sure. So
without further ado, should we get into the actual reviewing?
Yeah, let's bloody dive right in.
Right, episode 1. Could you do a rundown of that briefly for everyone?
Yeah, so episode 1, I start over a kind of what have they been up to, what the new status quo is, which is a bit of the same, but there are some things that are different. Carly has come back to Seattle and has a new roommate, Harper. Spencer, he's become rich from all of his art dealings and that sort of thing, and he has the old apartment back, so that's a nice sight to see for fans. And Freddy, he's come back, but he's living with his mum again after 2 divorces, I believe, and he now has a adopted stepdaughter, Millicent.
I mean, that's basically it, really, isn't it, for episode 1. I mean, it culminates with them, spoilers, going back up to the attic, and it's pretty much the same as a few boxes, and they decide to, you know, get the show back on the road. But oh my goodness, I mean, okay, We talked about Freddy a lot in the last episode and our predictions because we just couldn't understand what they'd done to him. And we got an explanation here. And to be honest, it's hilarious what they've actually done with the guy. But it's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. It's just like Ross Geller times 100, I guess.
Yeah. Everything about this character is just, it's too much, especially the moment that got me is when they bring back Freddy's mum. And obviously they give the cheer for everyone, and they have to give it for Freddy's mum as well when she comes through the door. And it's just,
he went crazy.
Whatever growth Freddy had in the original show, whatever development he had, it's all gone to the wayside because he's the biggest cuck in the world. He's such a loser. Even his stepdaughter knows it. She constantly takes advantage of him. I'm pretty sure like Carly and Spencer also feel the same way. And yeah, he's just honestly in some ways intolerable. He's just,
that word could be used for a few more characters, but we'll go there later.
Yeah. And we mentioned hair before. I do briefly want to talk about Freddy's hair because oh my god.
Oh, come on.
I don't know what they've done to this guy. But like if you go on Nathan Kress's Instagram, you can see that he can have like decent hair. They don't need to do a lot. They just need to, make it quite short, spike it up at the top, and it's fine. But he's got this like, it's what Drake Bell's hair is kind of like, but it's like all sweat to like the side, and it's all accentuating his forehead. It just looks like the most losery, nerdy like look ever. And I guess that's part of Freddy's character. But it's been 10 years or whatever. He's grown as a character, right. Surely, at least in that department. You don't have to make him.
All right,
I'm
sorry,
that.
But I'm gonna have to chip in here because I had some criticisms, but this shallow surface level character physical assassination that you're giving to him, I can't stand by this.
Look, I mean, I just have to goddamn say it. I just have to goddamn say it. It's like, and they gave him like a beard as well. Like he just looks fucked up. I'm sorry, like you bring this character for after so long. I'm looking at. I typed in Freddy iCarly, and there's some pictures of Nathan Kress, and he looks way better. Just do that look, but he's got this like Peter Parker Spider-Man 3 look, and he looks like he's just the worst. I can't deal with it.
That's pretty accurate, actually.
I can't deal with it.
Well, look, maybe I discredit you a bit there. Maybe that'll be because there are a few things about these characters that I'm kind of thinking this doesn't sit right with me. But maybe if this is the actual arc of the character for this season and the criticisms are going to be addressed, then I'll hail the whole thing as genius. But until now, maybe these divorces have taken their toll. He's destitute. Still pretty cocky though for someone whose life is just so pathetic.
Yeah, he's got a. I don't even know how to describe it. He's got this like he's whipping out these facts constantly, or this like tech know-how.
Yeah.
I sometimes forget that he was like that. I mean, you didn't get to it in episode 4, but he like when he's dating this sex worker, Spencer like tells her to pretend to be like a scientist, and he like kind of geeks out at her like saying the most surface level like science facts ever. Yeah, I do forget that he is just a flat out nerd.
It's that Benson smarm. Yeah. And that was a trademark of the character. And like you said, I kind of forgotten he was that way inclined as well. And he's the show's resident dork, and he kind of owns it. Yeah. It's funny watching him through the years, because I did also see a clip of him when he has a guest appearance on Sam and Cat. And that Freddy is very kind of, he sort of swaggers in. He's giving a lot of he's pouting a lot. He's kind of looking at everyone like they're beneath him. I just find that really funny. They kind of elevated Freddy's power levels they didn't. They the opposite of nerfed him for that episode.
They buffed him.
Yeah.
But they brought him back down to earth. He came crashing down after the 2 divorces.
Yeah, they nerfed him for this.
They definitely did.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole situation, I kind of want to see it explored a bit more, because it's one of the most like contrived, silly character backstories I've ever come across. Because Millicent, and this isn't about the actress at all, obviously, that goes without saying, but as a character is kind of just the most toxic, unlikable character I've seen in a while. They clearly hate each other. Why did he get joint custody? I mean, kind of talked about it as if it was this equal thing, but I mean, Millicent's clearly there all the time. parading around the apartment block like she's an equal. And I have to be honest with you, okay? I don't know how old she is, but kids, they need to be brought down a peg or two. And I think she needs a talking to. She needs to get some friends her own age. She needs to butt out of adult affairs. And I think Freddie needs to be the one to say that.
Yeah, because constantly she's like really mean to Carly, especially. She's like got this weird grudge against her, and Freddie doesn't do anything to stop her. Like,
no,
when it's obviously very, very rude to be talking this way to a friend of your adoptive father. So yeah. Freddie, I think the fact that he's kind of been knocked down a peg, it seems like that's extended to the fact that he just doesn't have the balls to talk to his own daughter and sit her down and just be like, hey, this is not okay.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I want to see this kind of resolved by the end of the season, because if not, it's going to be kind of insufferable.
Yeah, well, I've written this for episode 2, but Freddie claims to not know what the ick is, but he's literally the living embodiment of the ick at this point. So,
jeez.
I don't know. I want to like him again. I used to like him. I used to marvel at the guy's technical prowess and capabilities, but at this point, the guy's just wielding a smartphone. I mean, it's just not impressive.
I was gonna say, I mean, he had this big rig beforehand. He knew what he was doing. He was large and in charge. But here, I mean, yeah, like you said, he's just tapping on the iPhone. I know this is a bit of a nitpick, but you see at one point that he's literally just pressing like the record on like the video mode of an iPhone. It's not how I don't think that's how live streaming works.
No, it's not. I mean, they do kind of make a quick joke about it, don't they? Like he goes, I literally just press a button. But even so, I just...
It's too much. It's just too much.
Why are there so many ring lights? Because if they want to properly light a space, you would get proper lighting, not just like 15 ring lights.
Maybe, I mean, because ring lights are normally for like when you film yourself.
Yeah.
So maybe like Carly says at one point that she's done a couple things since, going to Italy, and like says she did like a university radio or something like that. Maybe that's from her career doing solo stuff, and she's just like, well, that's all I have, so that's what I'm going to use to light the studio.
The ring lights are also turned off, so maybe it's just some kooky set design, I don't know. But that's the thing, because didn't they sort of say that she'd been doing makeup videos or something in the interim?
Yeah, I think so.
And I hate that she's basically Zoella. We didn't get a single random dance.
No, we didn't. Well, this is what I wanted to bring up, because as soon as we start the episode, where there's no like kind of preamble at all, we're just kind of straight in to the setup, and like there's no kind of like setting the scene. It's just kind of like, bam, here's the characters, this is what they're doing. If you have never watched the show, like the original show at all, I bet you'd be so confused. You have no clue what the hell is going on. Because I could barely like comprehend, like, especially the fact that it started instantly. I was like, what? We're just here now. We're just doing this already. It was just a bit much. And there's this whole sequence with the breakup and like this ampersand, and like it's just too much. Like, it's too much for this opening.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say to you. I literally, sometimes I'm watching it and I have no idea what's going on. Like, I have no idea what they're talking about, what they're saying.
Yeah.
I'm so confused. I feel like I'm watching Tenet.
It's a lot. We were kind of promised that this would be a show that we're familiar with, but it would be different. It would be aged up. But I don't really think it is that, because it is essentially just the same show. It's just like some of the dialogue, like the references are slightly aged up, and like they can say crap now and bitch and stuff like that.
Pussy dick balls.
Exactly. That's pussy dick hole, because they literally do the baby Spencer bit again from the original show, and it's like they even position in universe they're bringing back the show, but it's a bit older now. But they literally do the same thing they were doing as kids. So it's like, have they really matured at all? Is the show actually really that different? Because it's not really. It's just exactly the same. But arguably, I'd say worse, because it's like, it's targeting an older audience, but it's literally just a kid's show again.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I think tonally, it's so hard to pinpoint like what this is going for. And you're right. Like, they kind of pepper in these more adult references. You still don't actually see them. They're not actually explored. I'm not like saying, okay, I want to see a sex scene, but I'm not convinced any of these characters have ever actually kissed anyone in their lives. They don't really scream. They're just not adult, And you're right, like the humor has not aged with the situations, and arguably kind of less funny as well.
Yeah, definitely.
because I think like the original show, it wasn't afraid to get fucking nuts.
Yeah.
This could be on the level of Community where, you know, you have a very like kind of grounded, simple premise that very quickly devolves into this kind of surreal fantasy land. But because Community's world was so fleshed out, you totally bought it. Like, you didn't care when something ridiculous or crazy happened. And I think the kind of same goes for the original. Whereas with this, they're kind of going for quite bland storylines so far.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll get crazier as it goes on, but I mean, like the first episode, very loosely, it's a kind of getting the band back together narrative, and there's a bit of something with Carly's like boyfriend, but he's like so poorly defined as a character. I mean, so I made my brother watch this with me as well.
Oh no.
And we kind of had this, I had to watch it again afterwards because we were riffing so much over it. But at first, when she mentions she has this boyfriend called Beau, my first thought was that they were going to go for that trope in sitcoms where you have this like off-screen character, kind of like in Frasier, where you have Niles' wife, or I'm trying to think who else was a bit like that. But anyway, yeah, Niles' wife's kind of like the most famous example of this. And we were just saying like how funny it would be if this Beau was this like off-screen presence. And we just immediately like started, you know, pretending he's this like English aristocrat. You know, he's just like off screen. He's like, who are these people, Carly? You know, and all this kind of stuff. And I just like, I wish they went for that, because that would just be so funny that like Carly has this bizarre off-screen boyfriend that everyone's just a bit iffy about. But then he comes in, it's just your classic schlub.
Yep.
And that was just, you know, that was tied in a bow very quickly. One of my notes here is like, why is Carly such a simp? That's like her defining characteristic. I don't like, she's such I don't know, like,
I think she was liking the original show as well, but not to this extent, I don't think.
She was, and that's the problem for me is I think like young girls and boys to an extent, they kind of see that stuff and they think like, oh, I need to be boy crazy or whatever, because like Carly on TV is, right? And so you do see like teenagers who've like never had a relationship, like they go for that kind of thing. But you know, you don't have to be like that, and especially not when you're 28 years old. My God, I think she'd be an insufferable girlfriend.
It does kind of feel like these characters have kind of been dumbed down to their one-dimensional character sheet traits. I mean, I'm not saying that iCarly, the original show, I mean, we are experts on it, obviously, but it knows what it is, and it doesn't like go for this huge like character development thing. But it does have, you know, decently well-rounded characters, and they have more than just a few traits. But in this, it's just in multiple episodes, like it's just about Carly kind of going after guys and doing the same thing over and over again. I don't really. Do they just not know what to do with the character? I mean, we said in the previous episode how like Carly was never the most interesting character on her own show, and it's kind of gone that way again, I guess. Yeah, and it's such a shame because, okay, they wanted. I know, like when iCarly first came out, it was hot off the heels of Drake and Josh, and they very clearly wanted to like show that Miranda Cosgrove was capable of playing different characters, and she's very, very different to Megan. But that was such a good character, and I think like it's just a shame, because I was watching these episodes and I actually do think like all these actors are quite capable of like really good comedic timing. It's just such a shame like they're not given more, because if someone said to me like, oh, they're going to reboot iCarly and it's going to be different, my first thought would be like, okay, what show would I liken this to? What should it be like? And I would say something a bit like New Girl. Like, have you ever seen that? Yeah. That'll be
something like that. And maybe, why not do it single cam? Because they were kind of promising us this whole, it's no reboot's been done quite like this before. And to an extent, they're right, because it's just so confusing. Like, I have no idea what this is and who it's for. But yeah, let's break it out of the multicam setup, because there were a few moments that made me laugh. Like, I've written one down for episode 2, but I just like, who is pressing that laugh button?
I know.
You know, because they're just saying a line, oftentimes without even the cadence of a joke, and they just go crazy, and it's actually disorienting, because you're like, what the hell is going on?
The humor's so confusing. It's just not funny like most of the time. Like, sometimes I can see like the nuggets of like, oh, this could have been like a funny joke if they had like timed it better, or like just done something like different with it. Yeah. Just a lot of the times the way it's delivered or the way it's edited, it doesn't come together. And going to like the fact that it's a multicam setup, I don't think it helps the show at all, and it makes it feel like really cheap and like, and especially I noticed in the first episode the sound design. And I don't know if this is just like a sitcom thing in general for because I haven't seen a lot of multi-camera stuff, admittedly, but especially when they have like that party in Spencer's apartment. There's like no sound design for any of the guests or anything at all. It's like you can only hear like the main, you know, people that are actually involved. So it just felt so empty and like lifeless. And obviously like the main focus is the people that are talking, but it just felt so off and like weird. That had to be like something they could have like addressed. Because I don't think it's always like that, right?
No. I mean, there is a bit of that. Like, it is oftentimes when you're watching a multicam show a bit like watching a play. Because you can kind of see people... I think I saw Harper and Millicent do it at a moment where they're kind of like miming with their hands as if they're talking. And the camera pulls away from them. And there is always going to be that element. But I just think it could be done a lot better than that. I think this could be a really big deal because if they actually completely revamped the format and the feel of this. Because I don't think that has been done yet. And this is the thing, like... There were a few kid shows when we were growing up that were single cam that didn't have a laugh track. I mean, just look at like Lizzie McGuire or like Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Even though Ned's was shot in a multicam sort of way on sets, the acting wasn't played like that.
Yeah.
So I just think they could have done this because every single one of these actors I think is capable of it. And it's a shame. But that's why we're so happy to be doing this. I don't want this to turn as like a fully fledged hate podcast because I think like the reason we're doing this is because we do have a fondness of the original show. When you do return to stuff like this, it's always going to be like the law of diminishing returns. Because I mean, I said to my girlfriend like a few weeks ago, she's a massive Drake and Josh fan, and we're both quite anti-Friends. Like, I mean, I'm not like against multicam shows. I bloody worship Seinfeld and Frasier and even like new ones like How I Met Your Mother I was a big fan of. But they do have their limitations. But yeah, I've never been into Friends, and neither has she. And I said to her, I was like, well, at the end of the day, like, even if you went back to Drake and Josh and compared that to Friends, like, Friends would probably still be funnier.
Yeah.
And that's the shame of it, is that it doesn't really age well, I'm afraid. And even if you pit it against something that you loathe, like Friends or Big Bang Theory, which isn't the coolest thing to like, I think there'd probably still be a bit more in that to enjoy.
Yeah, because obviously at the end of the day, even though I think the Nickelodeon shows were a bit more mature in what they could do.
Yeah.
In some ways
as opposed to the Disney ones.
Yeah. In some ways they were also a bit more kiddie and like zany than the Disney shows were, and they would kind of go to like very absurd places. Not to say that the Disney ones didn't, but like they did feel
the famously grounded Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yeah.
Very restrained show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's very nuanced. Had a lot of just great arcs.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's about an Italian-American family living in New York and the trials and tribulations that brings.
Teresa Rousseau, she's doing the hard work in New York. She's doing overtime, man. She's crazy. Maria Canals Barrera, we worship you for what you did.
Maria Canals Barrera! Woo! Yeah.
But yeah, like, I feel like Nickelodeon shows were like the shows you'd watch and you'd like feel like you were older than you were, but in some ways you kind of weren't, because they were trying to like get you in on the fact that, oh, we're like a bit more edgy, we can include bras in this and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think they've aged too well.
No.
Saying that, I think if I were to go back to like an iCarly episode, like an original one, I think there'd be at least a lot more creativity than there is in this reboot. Because I mean, we'll get to episode 3, but it gets very predictable, the storylines and the things that they do.
That's the great shame, isn't it? I think they are trying to play it off as this mature thing, and they're kind of being like, oh well, we'll shed the more immature aspects of it. But actually, the kind of the wackiness, the zaniness, the surrealism, I think that stuff should carry through.
Mm-hmm.
Because that doesn't have to be conflated with immaturity.
Yeah.
I just think that would be entertaining. I think the situations would be funnier. I mean, I saw like a bit the other day where Spencer like appears out of thin air as Mrs. Briggs, as like Mrs. Briggs' doppelganger. Again, variants.
Yeah, variants.
I'm telling you. So yeah, hopefully they up the ante a bit. Yeah, there's like even that joke actually, going back to that bra thing where Carly's kind of like, oh, I never did grow into it, which is kind of funny, but it's kind of sad too. Like, it's kind of like, oh, Carly, don't be so down on yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Episode 2. What's that one called?
Episode 2, we've got I Hate Carly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not to describe how we're acting right now, but I mean, it kind of sounds like it. Just to kind of catch us up to speed, summarize that episode. So it follows this hater that's kind of resurfaced, that's kind of targeting Carly and really bothering her, and simultaneously she meets this person at a harbour that is very it looks very strange. I'll say that about the harbour, but we'll get to that.
It was kind of like a farmer's market. I have been to one like that before a bit, so, but yeah,
she meets this guy who kind of acts like he's never seen iCarly or never heard of it, but it turns out, spoiler alert, that this guy is the hater. I mean, we could have never seen it coming. And then the B story is Spencer blinding himself. I didn't really, honestly, I think I must have blanked out because I came back and, he was just, he couldn't see and Freddy was, trying to help him. I didn't, what was that all? I think that was trying to play off, some of the zanier, absurd storylines from the original show, but it was just very strange.
No, I'm completely the same. I had no idea what was going on with that. And then I watched it again, and then I kind of understood what they were going for a little bit more. And I think it kind of proves that, okay, maybe this is something, maybe we're being too hard on it. Maybe we're not above it, we're below it. And it is something that's going to take a few watches to kind of really understand. And I think that was one of those episodes.
Yeah. This is a multi-watcher, guys. You're going to want to watch these shows at least, episodes at least 5 times.
It's a complex sense of wit.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this was probably either this one or the fourth one, probably the weakest ones for me.
Okay.
Just because nothing was surprising, nothing was really too jaw dropping. It was just very standard. Going back to the harbour farmers market thing, that looked like absolute ass. Oh my god. I'm I can't believe how terrible it the outside looked. They had this terrible green screen. I was thinking could they not have got the volume that the Mandalorian and WandaVision and stuff use?
Yeah. Let the cast interact with some real environments.
We brought up Wizards of Wavy Place. The exterior shots, sure, they look like studios and stuff, but they at least look lived in and they look semi-convincing. This just looked like they clearly were on a set. It was just so... I know, obviously multicam, that's the limitation. That's, kind of what you have to deal with. But at the same time, it was just so... It just took me out of it completely. You just couldn't take it seriously at all.
No, and kind of talking about, that twist moment, I think that would be fair game in an old episode of iCarly, something that's literally aimed at children, okay?
Yeah.
But, I mean, once again, this is people in their early 20s who are most likely going to be watching, and the moment you see this guy, he's the troll. And it does feel a little bit insulting, because this is the thing, are we being too harsh on this? Are we being too negative? But at the same time, these executives are mining our generation with nostalgia for all it's worth, and they're just trying to manipulate us because they know that we're essentially a generation of children still. They said that I think there was a study that said adolescence is being redefined into your late 20s, and I get that, I fall into that, but at the same time still intelligent beings, and it's oh my god, what, I just can't, again, it's like you said, someone who's never seen this before, they would think this was the most brain dead, insulting pile of shit they'd ever seen.
I think what we're just asking for is a bit of goddamn respect.
Yeah, come on.
Please. This is the crazy
thing. We have a degree?
Oh, we want to use it? Jeez. It's crazy because I was looking and on Wikipedia at least, it says Rotten Tomatoes is 100%. What?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. I've seen some
to be fair,
really.
Actually, it's only 6 ratings, so
okay.
So
okay.
We'll walk that back. We'll walk that back a little bit.
I've seen some harsh takedowns of this, so then I've also seen I saw a Reddit post on just r/television, which you'd expect maybe some more critiques. Because they're not tied down to the fandom, but no, they were all yeah, this was sick, I loved it, had so much fun. And the funniest thing about it was that loads of the comments were yeah, I didn't really laugh, but it was cool, it was nice. It's you didn't really laugh at a sitcom. what are you gauging this off of?
Yeah, because I just found it quite boring. That was
unfortunately.
Like the fact that I didn't laugh, whatever. But like the fact that I also found it like just kind of boring to watch and it felt like a chore. Because I was expecting to get some enjoyment out of it. And like in some ways it was, I mean, I think we'll talk about it a bit more, but like Jerry Trainer, I think he's probably the one that's, giving it the most out of all of them. And I think he probably works the best in like the majority of these.
For sure.
But yeah, there's just like, it's just,
I mean, like, once again, when I rewatched episode 2 and I actually like tried to pay full attention to whatever that blind B plot was, it did kind of make me chuckle a little bit, like the moment when Freddy's explaining the sunset to him, and they're kind of there, and I think actually if I could nominate that as this episode's Benson moment,
Benson!
So yeah, like I think it's quite fun, the interplay between Freddy and Spencer, but I mean, again, it's like the whole thing with Freddy, like he's got the most like pathetic life. Why don't you mind that for comedy? Because if you're not going to do anything with it, then what's the point? And then if you don't do anything with it, then it's just a really contrived situation. Whereas if they actually really explore it and constantly like refer back to it, then I think they would get away with it. But at this point, they're not. So
yeah, like the fourth episode, which I haven't seen, kind of capitalizes on that a little bit, a bit more, I'd say. But maybe I don't think it's like taken advantage of enough as it could have. No, I'm just going to say I don't really have anything else to say about the second episode. It's kind of like a nothing episode for me. Don't really like...
Yeah, apart from like how traumatized I was by Nora Dershowitz, or whatever her name is, like moving the chair like a dog wiping its ass on a carpet. Like, that fucked me up.
That was a reappearance that I was not expecting.
No.
And yeah, it's quite unpleasant, really.
Yeah.
I do wonder what other cameos we'll get. I mean, I think we're expecting Neville at some point.
Yeah.
I think there's I mean, I personally like to see Tebow again, the guy who was
Tebow would be fun.
The store they would always go to. Nora Dershowitz in the bin.
Well, it's good that you brought that up now, because actually when Carly had that board up with the possible suspects, there were a few familiar faces, a few Easter eggs, if you will, from the Schneiderverse. And I did notice Mrs. Briggs was there, Lubert was there. I think that was it, actually. But and Neville was there, but of course we know he's coming back. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see Lubert back. I mean, I was thinking about him during my my brainstorm workout, and I was just thinking, okay, this is a man who his skin is infested with boils and spots and warts, okay? We're currently living in a time where that is borderline sexy, okay? Because people are obsessed with Dr. Pimple Popper and just squeezing their zits and spots for the pleasure of people online. And I'm telling you now, he would be hailed as a god. So my prediction is that Lubert is now a rival star of the tube and screen, and he is just popping his legs and his warty cock for everyone's enjoyment.
Oh my god. That's a vivid image, but yeah, I could definitely see that. I don't know if they go as far as to show his pig on screen. Maybe as an off-screen gag, they all like, it cuts to them watching a TV screen and they go, ugh, like all of them at the same time.
Yeah,
Something
that'd be quite funny.
That'd be funny. But yeah, I think there's some reasoning somewhere in there, and I think he could come back in that form for sure. I like either as like his warty self, or maybe like a more refined man. He's like popped all of his pimples now. He's made all his millions from all the pimples that he pops on his show, and I just hope he's a better being.
He's popping other people's pimples now. He's just going around with a little needle, like, you know. Trust me, I know how to do this. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he's someone that he was a pretty miserable bastard, wasn't he? I mean, they were kind of just making fun of him and his little meatball and all this kind of stuff. And I think this 10-year period, everything's coming up Lubert, you know?
I mean, they're still... So. Well, Spencer, I guess Carly as well, they're still in the same building, so do you assume he still works there? Like, as the lobby guy? Or has he moved on?
Oh, that's the thing, I'm getting impatient. Like, let's explore this world a bit more. I mean, it's kind of how I felt with, like, the Star Wars sequel trilogy and other things that come back. Like, they always play their cards very tight, like, very close to their chest, and you just want to, like, see what the state of everything in the universe is. But I guess we're just going to have to be patient.
Yeah, it's taking its time, certainly. And, you know, I guess they're limited by their sets, so they can only do so much.
They can only build so quickly. So I'd like to see Mrs. Briggs. That'd be quite fun.
That'd be good, yeah.
She really reminds me of my evil French teacher from secondary school. So
do you want to elaborate, or is that a story for another time?
I don't know. She's just kind of like borderline obsessed with me, and like I was in all the school plays and stuff, and I was a pretty good student, you know. Like I think I ended up getting pretty good grades, and I was top of that set. And she would like email my drama teacher, say that I should be basically fired from the school plays because she was worried about my dedication to French. Bearing in mind that I was literally raised in a French-speaking country. Yeah. So I kind of knew what I was doing, right? And yeah, she just wouldn't let it go. And she'd always kind of compare me to her son, Tim. Like, she'd just always bring that up. It's just like a lot of baggage, I think, that she was carrying around. And she's also very religious. And I think like there was one time where she actually kept me and my mates in for detention, and we had to like attend one of those like religious school clubs. And so they're just like blasting Christian rock music.
Yeah, that sucks.
It's just like, that's not really something that warms you to someone, is it?
No.
So
if they did bring back Mrs. Briggs, she's 67, Mindy Sterling, her actress.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still doing stuff. I'm looking at her filmography.
Yeah, I swear I've seen her in other things.
Apparently she voiced a character on Korra. That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
She was also in the hit Disney Channel show Ant Farm. Don't know if you ever watched that show. I was subjected to it in my youth.
Bit after my time, that one.
I'm sure. If that's all we have to say about the second episode, should we just move on to the third one?
Yeah, let's move the fuck on. Well, this one, I would say of the three I've seen, this was, I think, the best one.
Yeah, I agree. This was definitely the best one for me as well, because it actually had something to say and a bit of an arc, even though we'll get into it, but it was a bit muddled in what it wanted to say, but it did.
It was
at least have something to offer.
There were some ideas and some themes, and because this is the thing, like, to be honest, the concept of a young woman who was at one point incredibly famous online as a very young person, now growing up and dealing with that fame, I feel like that's a really good concept. Like, you could make some really cool comedy drama out of that situation, but we're not really getting into that. I guess this is not the kind of show to explore that. Maybe that'd be like some Judd Apatow Netflix series. But this is the thing. It's like, how does going through that shape you as a person? I mean, she's so kind of like full of it that she literally introduces herself to everyone as like, hi, I'm Carly Shay of iCarly fame. It's like, oh my god, this is disgusting.
Get over yourself. If you're in the UK, no one give a fuck.
Yeah. This is the problem. It's like I can't really work out if the show is perpetuating toxic internet culture or if it's actually trying to critique it. And I think this episode had a bit of both. Mm-hmm. And I think, unfortunately, it's not bold enough to actually like pick a side. I think like clearly Spencer's plot of accidentally creating this piece of art that's creating this conversation about the negative side of the internet with his sister at the forefront. I think like, yeah, they flirted with actually addressing it.
Yeah, because it's essentially critiquing the very thing that it's trying to be, and because of that, it feels just very at odds with itself, especially this episode. Because there's that moment where the influencer goes under that basic art piece that Spencer has, and it's like Carly criticizes her for that, but she's literally doing the most like basic things in the show.
Yeah.
So it's just very, like you said, it's not picking a side at all. Not that it necessarily has to.
No, it doesn't.
But I feel like there is a way to do it without, dumbing yourself down, essentially. Because you do have like a good idea here, but then you just kind of, but you are just kind of going back and trying to appeal to essentially the lowest common denominator by doing some of the things in the show.
Yeah, because I mean, we're not like these people that are kind of like, another victim of cancel culture or anything like that. Like, usually the people that do get cancelled, like they do deserve it, and anyone that is hit with really baseless attacks, it gets brushed under the rug because anybody with common sense, which I choose to believe is the majority of people, know that it's nothing to get worked up about. And I actually thought there was like a moment, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I thought this was borderline genius, was the fact that Millicent is the only character in the show that is worried about her being cancelled, and it's because she's a dumb kid.
Yeah.
She doesn't actually understand like because she's just like existing on the internet, and she's taking all this shit seriously. And I actually did enjoy the fact that like no one was entertaining her about this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think they thought of that, but the fact that you cleaned it from that is pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Millicent.
I mean, what does that say, really? She's just...
Because there was an incredibly painful moment, an incredibly painful Millicent moment in this episode.
Are you talking about the song?
Yeah.
The fact that they do it like twice or three times, maybe. Like they end the episode.
Millicent song reprise.
Oh god. It is
horrible.
Honestly really hard to watch, and the only thing I could think of, like, when watching that moment is like, just imagine her having to rehearse that, and like, oh god, it makes me so uncomfortable. I hate it so much. Nothing against the actress, because she's just doing a job, but like,
yeah,
the fact that they got her to do that is just, oh, why? I feel so bad for her.
No, that's the thing, like, as a child actress, like, she's not that bad at all. Like, she's doing her job, but the stuff they're giving her is so bad. And I do really question, like, what is the point of this character? Who is it for? Like, is it supposed to be like a surrogate for the younger audience members? But she's not remotely likable at all. She's basically like a villain. And
yeah.
and it's funny, yeah, like the whole thing with the song, like no one was recoiling when she was singing, and I it sort of took me back to that moment in School of Rock where Miranda Cosgrove's character, like, she puts her hand up, she's like, oh, can I sing, and then she sings like that song from Cats. It's really bad, and like Jack Black's like, okay, shut up, you know. And like, but if you actually compared that to this, like, holy shit, that makes like Miranda Cosgrove's character in that episode look like the best singer in the world. Like, oh my god.
But that scene is obviously, because it is the way it's, you know, positioned, it is really funny. But they don't play it for laughs. It's dead serious. Well, like, you're supposed to laugh at it being like, because of the things that she's saying, not because of the whole situation. And like, it's just rough. And the fact that they do it twice and get everyone to sing it, oh my god, I just can't deal with it. It's just wrong. It's just straight up wrong.
Yeah, and I've seen that done before, you know, like where a character in a show comes up with like a really like horrible song, and then there's this episode of Modern Family in season 1, I think, where Haley's boyfriend Dylan, he sings a song to the whole family, and it's like really inappropriate. And then there's like an after credit scene where like the whole family's kind of like humming it, and it's such a good episode. Like, oh my god, to be honest, like early Modern Family was fucking phenomenal. And yeah, they just like ripped it from that. So
yeah. I never want to think about that ever again. So bad.
Yeah, I thought it was quite funny, like when Carly and Spencer kind of like had to team up against like the mob at the art gallery, like, and then they were kind of just like, just fuck off. Like, no one cares.
I bet there were some better moments in this one, I think, than the other ones, because there was at least something you could work from, for like the jokes and stuff. And I just found it funny, like I have in my notes here, I just written Spencer becomes the Joker. Just because it's this like Joker origin story for Spencer. He just goes fucking crazy because his sister won't like apologize to him. It's just so ridiculous. But I did find that whole thing, like, because it is on the verge of like tapping into that like just completely crazy energy that the original show had of like, he's just doing this completely out of spite. I did like that about it. I do want to see more of Joker Spencer, or Crazy Steve Spencer. I mean, same character, I guess.
Honestly, the whole thing with like Spencer and Crazy Steve is I could almost see them as being a bit like Cooper in Twin Peaks, because in season 3 there's like a doppelganger of Coop, and he's just this like evil, demented mirror version. And honestly, like, yeah, Crazy Steve, I could easily see him being that for Spencer. But yeah, it was definitely the one I enjoyed the most. And there were moments, where I actually thought like, oh, this has something to say, and it's actually really against like how silly the internet is. Well, I came across a phrase which kind of is just basically what like Twitter is, and that's like a storm in a teacup, you know, just complete nonsense issue. And so I thought they were taking a stand, but it was temporary. And also there was like I think there was like a moment in this episode where Carly Because I thought for a moment they were kind of turning Carly into a bit of a Fred Mo... No, not Fred Mo... They were turning Carly into a bit of a Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother. And the thing about Ted is that in season 1, he's borderline insufferable. Like, he's just the most annoying, doe-eyed fuck, right? And then, because Josh Radnor's fantastic, they kind of do this transformation and they turn Ted into kind of like the butt of the joke. And he's also like, he takes the ribbing quite well, and I think Ted becomes quite a likable guy, and just everything's at his expense, and it's really funny. But he's just inherently quite a lame guy. And I thought, like, are they doing that with Carly? Because, like, they're kind of chastising her for having a really shit sense of humor. But the thing is, right, is like, it's really interesting how the show decides when to find something not funny, when the joke that Carly says is honestly at the same level as the majority of the jokes that everyone laughs themselves silly over.
I guess Sam's gone to not have that interplay.
Yeah, well, Sam's joined a biker gang.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about that. What happened to Sam?
We didn't, no.
Yeah, they kind of just... They do mention Sam quite a lot in the first episode. Like,
yeah, it was nice.
Yeah,
it felt organic as well.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't forced, which is good. Definitely leaves the door open for Jeanette to come back if she pleases.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it kind of reminded me a little bit in Community when Troy leaves. And I thought it was really funny in season 6 of Community where, like, suddenly they just double down on the Troy references. Because when he initially leaves in season 5, they, like, don't talk about him at all. And then in season 6, they're just, like, constantly going on about this guy to the point where it's, like, actually annoying all the new characters. Yeah. I thought, and I thought, well, maybe they could do that. I don't know. But we haven't talked about Harper, like, at all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's kind of the new best friend surrogate replacement for Sam. Yeah, I guess we haven't mentioned it because I don't really have much to say about her. She's fine.
No. Yeah. Like, she's no better or worse than, like, anyone else.
No. I mean, she's definitely not, like, my least favourite part of the show.
Yeah, that's generous, yeah.
I don't know. She hasn't really had... Well, she gets a bit more to do in the episode that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
But even then, like, I don't think she's used to her, like, fullest potential, to be honest.
We haven't even tapped into 1/5 of Harper's power.
They've kind of established that she's, like... She seems to come from some sort of wealth or something. Maybe. Yeah. So there's a bit of her backstory, but, like, I guess they do kind of need her in the show to, like, have someone to bounce off of Carly, but...
Yeah, she's kind of like the straight man. I can't really work it out, but then, like, so's Carly.
Yeah.
So is Freddie.
The only not straight man is Spencer, I guess.
Yeah,
he's just
absolutely
crazy.
The thing about Harper is, in the first episode, I really didn't like her because she insults Spencer. She calls him a ding dong, which I thought was the ultimate disrespect.
What the heck?
And she was just very cocky, and I also found that Carly became more cocky when she was around her. It was kind of like, oh, they're just creating this horrible environment between them where they were doing that thing where they really, like, hype themselves up, which is it's good to be confident, but they were just like, oh, I'm so sexy, oh, I'm the most amazing hot piece of ass, and it's just like, oh, it's just, that's not endearing as a character. It's just quite annoying, and they kind of shied away. Like, I think Harper by episode 2, like, she was a lot more bearable, and like, she referenced furries, which was amusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there's not really, like, any chemistry between her and Freddie or Spencer at this point.
No, and she hasn't really had any defining moments.
No.
I'd say she's definitely not had any terrible songs, which is good.
Fuck.
Yeah, there's room to grow for that character. I'd say she's got some storylines in her, I think, but
yeah,
it's just how you use her.
Yeah, but it's not that you want to compare her to Sam because, like, they are completely different. Like, there was nothing about Harper that made me feel like she was like a copy of Sam. But, like, no. I don't know, Sam, like, Jeanette McCurdy was really good in the old show. Like, she had really good comedic timing and was just a very, like, strong presence on screen, and it really, like, that Sam was iCarly's bite, you know, and I think it's just missing that edge, sadly. Because, oh my god, can you imagine Sam as an adult?
Oh my god, the amount of crackhead energy she would bring, especially if she hadn't changed whatsoever, like many of the characters on the show. I mean, she comes back from that biker gang and she's like, honestly, what if they just recast Sam's character? I know it would be kind of a disservice to what Jeanette McCurdy brought to that character, but, you know, you could get someone else in that role. Emma Stone, another iCarly alum. We both surprisingly enjoyed Cruella, her, like, insane performance as her. She could bring that to iCarly. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not against it. But, like, I mean, Sam kind of honestly just belongs on something like Always Sunny. Like,
Yeah,
she's that
that's
kind of
true.
chaotic level.
Yeah.
So, and that's really not what they're going for with this
Yeah.
kind of... I don't even know what they're going for here, but...
Yeah. I mean, I guess like a final note for this episode, I'll say is they make a joke about the pandemic.
Oh, yeah! They were like, oh, when would that ever happen?
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
And I just wanted to kill myself at that point. Honestly, I know we said that was the best episode, but fuck, man, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
Between that and the song, like, jeez.
Yeah.
It just unnecessary. I'm not saying it's one of those like people you can't joke about anything or anything like that, but like I just think it was like it didn't really add anything.
No.
And it wasn't very funny because they purposely put the laugh track to make it seem like this like big haha thing. It just wasn't funny. It was just not a funny joke.
No. I feel like obviously like the pandemic, it's always going to be topical because it literally changed the entire world. But I think everyone's exhausted by it. And I do just think like generally when you're writing comedy and you're going for like topical humor, really think long and hard about that before you actually go with it. Because I mean, it's like Gabe and I, my brother, like we were writing a script and I'd put in this joke about how like the main character, he has like a Queer Eye duvet set. And like I think there's just because I'd been watching tons of Queer Eye, and you just got to ask yourself like, okay, is this actually funny? Like, because that's like kind of the lowest form of comedy when everything's just like topical references. Because I think I'm not against them. Sometimes they really do work, but I think you've got to have like a rule with yourself, like something has to be at least 10 years old before you kind of go for it, right?
Yeah, there is a certain way to do it, and like a lot of the references that they make in this, they're either just kind of feel like quite dated. Just do better, I think. Just
do better.
Just think about the jokes you're making, guys. Think about it for one goddamn second. I'm not claiming to be like, I probably couldn't write any better, you know?
I was going to say, like, I hate to say it, but could maybe use some of Dan Schneider's guiding hands. Yeah,
I mean, he's hands off for this reboot. At least I think he is for the most part. But, you know, Phil Lewis is at the helm. He's at the steering wheel, driving the car into the sunset with this thing. But, yeah, I definitely think Schneider's baking. We need some goddamn bread from him. We need some crumbs.
Was that intentional, that joke?
What?
Driving off into the sunset?
Oh, God. Oh, no. In case you missed the joke, we're referencing Phil Lewis's manslaughter.
Vehicular manslaughter, yeah.
He did.
Yeah. It's not funny at all.
It's not funny. It's not funny at all. But yeah, Dan Schneider. We need him back, please. Yeah, he was the Kevin Feige of this whole thing. And yeah, I mean, do you want to talk about the fourth episode a bit, or should we save that for next time?
Yeah, maybe we'll save that for next week.
Yeah, we've gone pretty in depth with this first barrage.
Yeah, barrage is a good word for it. Yeah. I feel assaulted.
And including the fourth episode, there's 10 more episodes to go. So we're in for a long road ahead of us.
Yeah. It's the summer of iCarly. I mean, I talked about Twin Peaks just a bit ago, and 2017, when season 3 came out, was one of the most exciting, memorable summers of my life. Just every week watching a new episode. What is David Lynch concocting for us this week? And it just was completely subversive, seminal, game-changing material. And maybe I'm the fool for kind of expecting that same experience again.
Yeah.
They dubbed it as Twin Peaks: The Return. I mean, this is the same. It's iCarly: The Return. You know?
Yeah, it is. Oh God, yeah. We were expecting this to change television, to change cinema, the way we think about movies. We were expecting to use our film degrees to the fullest extent, our iCarly knowledge of the previous show. I mean, we are in comparing the two, but it's just not scintillating those iCarly neurons in the way that I'd want them to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, Cahiers de Cinema, a famous French film journal.
Yeah.
They actually ranked Twin Peaks: The Return as the best film of 2017. And I think it was like the first time a TV series had been given that honor. And I don't know if the guys at Nickelodeon realized that they could achieve the exact same honor if they really wanted to, but they don't.
Do you think this is going to get some Emmy attention at all? A daytime Emmy, maybe?
Well, let's think about this. A daytime Emmy. Ooh. Yeah, well, maybe something in between. Like, they need some kind of web equivalent. But I mean, what? Like,
the Kids' Choice Emmys, maybe?
Well, that's the thing. It probably will just be relegated to a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award, but they could have made something that was just a bit more than that.
But that's the thing. It's not for kids. That's the other thing. It's like not intended for a child audience.
Well, as we talked about last episode, they're engaging in sexual situations.
Yeah, they are. They're not avoiding them at all.
It's like Big Bang Theory. It's over. It's done. So you don't have to contend with a behemoth like that. The multicam sitcom's ostensibly dead, so they could really kind of bring it back. Because if you actually look at like the Emmy nominations for Best Comedy, a lot of those shows, they've got like 3 jokes in them. So and I'm not like dissing them, because all those shows, I love them. Like, I love like Barry and Atlanta and all those kind of stuff, but they're not like laugh-a-minute shows, are they? They're like completely different things. They're melding comedy and drama in new ways. But why couldn't iCarly be the same?
Yeah, and the difference is, like, those shows, even though it's not laugh-a-minute, when it does make you laugh, it really does make you laugh.
Absolutely. Like, the jokes are like, they're mental when they hit.
But here it's like you don't even really get a chuckle. Like, you just get an acknowledgement that, oh, they were trying to do the joke, but it didn't work at all.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said earlier, like, you can see the kernels of the comedy, and they're not in the microwave long enough.
No.
They're not in the Schneider bakery oven long enough.
They're just a pile of yeast just waiting to be put in the oven into that loaf of Schneider bread. But unfortunately, they're just this gooey, like, weird, just mess of nothing. And it's unfortunate. I'm not gonna lie.
That's our official review. If they're gonna make a critics trailer, it would be Tom and Revan call it an abundance of sloppy wet yeast.
Just riddled with bacteria. It's just yucky. It's just yucky. I hope not every week's like this, because it's going to be a bit depressing if it is. I mean, it just sounds like we don't want this to be bad. We want this to be awesome. We want this to be fucking epic, but it's just not.
This is supposed to be White Boy Summer, and iCarly falls into that.
You know, this is like what Paramount Plus has got. Like, this is their one...
jewel in their crown.
Sure, like, I haven't heard of any other thing that they're doing for Paramount Plus. Like, this is their one piece of original programming to get people in. Like, and it's just underwhelming.
They literally, they can't bring back Drake and Josh. They can't bring back the Amanda Show. They can't bring back what else is there? They can't bring back Sam and Cat, because neither of them want to do it.
Ned's Declassified, that's the only one they can do, and that would be amazing.
Oh, that would be amazing, but I think we're not in that timeline where that's going to happen. It's just, that's too good for us.
We need to campaign like they did for Community to try and get, you know, this is what we got to do. We got to bring back Ned's Declassified, and I think that's the inevitable mission. Even though this is an iCarly focused podcast, what we do really want is a Ned's Declassified continuation. And if we do keep watching the episodes, we do keep talking about it, maybe they'll look to the catalogue that they have and try to greenlight some of the other shows that they could bring back for Paramount Plus.
I agree. I mean, at the moment they greenlight that shit, this podcast ceases to be an iCarly podcast. I can tell that much.
I'm ready to rebrand, like, right now. Like, I'll fucking do it instantly.
Yeah. It's been a very strange week, to be honest, because, like, I've thought about iCarly more than I have at any point in my life, and I just, like, I've seen the episodes multiple times. I've had various conversations with various people about it, and it's all been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so.
I do want to say, actually, make an announcement about next week's episode. We were thinking about doing a head-to-head trivia battle, and I'm not going to reveal who the guest is, but all I can say is that we're very excited to get someone of this caliber on so early onto the podcast, and we will be revealing that when it airs.
It's going to be exciting, guys. You're going to want to tune in, because this is a big name, is all I'm going to say. And one
big
to look
name,
forward to.
and Tom, you'll be duking it out with him, right?
Yeah, I will be, and I honestly don't know what to expect. It's going to be a bit of a wild show.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
It's going to be fun. Also tune in, because I guess we'll catch up with episode 4, and then episode 5 will also be out, so we'll talk about that as well a bit. Maybe we'll talk about that with
Yeah.
the guest as well, if they've seen it too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see their perspective. They're very busy though, so we'll see.
Well,
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But yeah, I think that's probably the end here. Thanks everyone for listening. If you are listening, we actually have absolutely no idea yet if anyone is, but that's cool. We're having fun doing it.
Yeah, I think we're trying to make this a bit of an enjoyable experience. And if you do enjoy the show, get into contact with us. I don't know what hashtag we came up with last time, but I guess just hashtag Spaghetti Taco if you want to reach us and send us a question, send us a query. We're here to listen. We're here to listen to your knowledge and your expertise.
If you want to have a go at us for being a couple of negative Nancys, we'll accept it. We'll take it head on. We're always growing as people, so
we're pretty thick-skinned, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. See you next week.
Take it easy.
I know you see